Alright YouTube, so we are back of course to talk about some Final Fantasy, but also specifically like Square Enix. So yesterday we had a Nintendo Direct, which I watched it. It was kind of whatever. I've seen like a lot of positive stuff about it, but a lot of like Nintendo fanboys are like diehards. Like Nintendo can do no wrong. Every game they put out's a goddamn masterpiece. I'm not sure that I've watched every Direct for the last couple of years, but it seems like every single Nintendo Direct that I watch, there's a new Fire Emblem game. It feels like there's always a new goddamn Mario Kart. It feels like the same thing. I feel like I'm watching the same thing every time. I'm not like a big Nintendo player these days. I definitely was growing up, but I have a Switch, but it's literally just for Pokemon. I think I own 3 or 4 games for it, and they're Pokemon games, and that is it. Now that being said, of course, there were still some good reveals, like the Earthbound 1 and 2 coming to the Switch, but I think it's specifically for Switch Online. But the main one that we're here to talk about, of course, was the Chrono Cross Remaster, or Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition. This is a long overdue remaster, one of the classic, really good RPGs from back in the day, the PlayStation prequel to Chrono Trigger. And I actually didn't even know until reading like just random articles about this that it was actually never released in Europe. So this like remaster re-release is actually kind of a big deal because there's a whole region that never got to experience this shit. Now this remaster will be dropping on April 7th, but I think it's important for you guys to know that even though this was shown during a Nintendo Direct, it's not just coming to the Switch. It's also coming to PS4 and Xbox One in case you only have one of those platforms, or if you have like all 3 of those and just want to maybe decide which platform you want to get it on. Now look, as cool as this is, it's not really why we're here, right? Like, I wouldn't just make a video about an announcement of a Chrono Cross Remaster. Why we're here, of course, is that a Chrono Cross Remaster was on the NVIDIA GeForce Now leak that happened like some months ago. We did a few videos about it. And the fact that this has now been, announced, revealed, release date, trailer, all that shit, it makes you look back at that list and wonder what all is true on it. And of course, what we're talking about, it's probably in the title, thumbnail, whatever, Final Fantasy 9 Remake and Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster. These were like a hot topic last year. And since we really last talked about this, there's been quite a few things from the NVIDIA GeForce Now leak that have been true. We had like the ActRaiser remake, we had Destroy All Humans 2 remake, the New Brothers in Arms, Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, God of War coming to PC. We also had like the Alan Wake remaster, like a shit ton of the games that were on there that were maybe some of them were speculated before the leak itself. Some of those we had no idea, right? Nobody was calling for an ActRaiser remake, but it was on the list and it ended up being true. And the article I'm referencing for that quick list of games is from November, so that's only like a few months after the initial leak, so who knows how many more games from that list have now been proven true. Anyways, the initial leak happens in September 2021, fast forward to February 2022, and we have yet another one proven with the Chrono Cross Remaster. Oddly enough, the article that I'm referencing had a section dedicated specifically to the Square Enix related leaks, which is perfect, and as you can see at the top of the list here, Chrono Cross Remaster. And I'd argue that the Chrono Cross Remaster is kind of random, if that makes any sense, because before the leak itself with NVIDIA, nobody was saying this was going to happen. Nobody was speculating that. The game really hasn't been touched that much by Square Enix or whatever. Like, it released in '99, it eventually got re-released on the PlayStation Network in like 2011, but that's kind of it, right? Like, that's all we've heard of Chrono Cross for however long now, for its entire lifetime. So whenever you see this like rumor of a potential remaster out there, it makes you kind of skeptical just because Square Enix hasn't really shown that game a lot of love. Even though it's Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger are very popular games, like, you think they haven't beaten it to death, right? They haven't like re-released it on every goddamn platform imaginable. But with the reveal of that Chrono Cross Remaster, it makes you look back at that list of Square Enix games and wonder, are these true? Are these going to happen now at some point? Because it seems like a lot of the shit that's on this list that, NVIDIA was trying to deny have been periodically being proven true. And if that's the case, then that means at some point we're going to be getting a Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster and a Final Fantasy 9 Remake. And for the few people out there that may not be aware, there's a distinct difference between a remaster and a remake. A remaster is just a visual overhaul, so they're going to take probably like the PSP version of Final Fantasy Tactics, War of the Lions, and like make it look a lot prettier for modern generations, modern consoles and stuff. Whereas a remake could be one of two different things. The more likely of the two is that it's like an engine remake, as in they're building it from the ground up in probably Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5, and it's going to look even better than it looks like right here. Which right here, the HD version that's on like PS4 and Xbox One shit, looks so motherfucking good, but it's going to look even better than this. But if we want to get our hopes up as high as they can possibly be, it might be a Final Fantasy 9 remake akin to Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which I don't think that's what it is, because for one, think of how long it's taken them to do the 7 Remake project. We're still waiting on the second game, right? It's been 2 years. Not that anybody's expecting the second part to be out already, but we're still waiting for the second game. And there might be 3 or 4 or 5 games, who knows. Final Fantasy 9 was 4 discs. It was a whole disc bigger than Final Fantasy 7. So if they're going to go the route of remake, they'd be retelling the Final Fantasy IX story, but adding all kinds of new shit to make it last even longer, and we'd be here waiting even longer than the remake project for the Final Fantasy IX project to finish. And I just don't think that's what they're going to do. The likeliest thing, as we've talked about in the past when we've discussed this topic before, is that it's probably going to be an engine remake, as we talked about previously, but it's more so to try to help build hype because they're going to be doing some sort of Final Fantasy IX anime at some point. I don't even know if we had any updates on that in a long time. For some reason, last year they revealed that a Final Fantasy IX animated series is in the works, and that's not me complaining, it's random. I love Final Fantasy IX, I'm happy for it, I can't wait for this. It just kind of came out of nowhere. So more than likely, whatever this Final Fantasy IX remake is going to coincide with the animated series and probably release sometime before the show actually debuts. That way people can buy this, play this, enjoy it, get attached to the characters, and then watch the show. And speaking of the animated series, I am so curious about it, as in, what is it going to be? Is it just going to be a retelling of Final Fantasy IX, which I'm not against. I'm fine with that. It'd be kind of cool if they added in some new stuff just so we get some more lore for Final Fantasy IX. But also some updates on it, because that was revealed more than half a year ago. Give us an idea. Is it coming out sometime this year, potentially, or is it going to be 2023? Or is it going to be beyond that? Have they even started production on it yet? But it's the thing that's going to be just about it. I said this on the channel before when we've talked about this, but Final Fantasy IX is one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know if it's in top 5 or 10, but if I was doing a top 20 list, 100% it's in there. If we're doing top Final Fantasy games, it's 100% top 5. So if and when this, Final Fantasy IX remake comes out, it's a day one. I'm buying it day one, do not care. It'd be kind of cool if, even if it's just an engine remake, they still added new stuff in. If they're going to build it from the ground up, why not add new stuff in? Maybe new super bosses and new hidden content, something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Don't expect it, just hope for it. But if there is ever any sort of updates on this, or the anime, or even the Tactics Remaster, we are going to talk about it, of course, here on the channel. My dudes, that's going to be the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys aren't want to say more Final Fantasy IX Remake, Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, Final Fantasy IX Animated Series. I'm losing my mind right now. I'm recording this shit at midnight right now to try to get it out for you guys today as you're watching it, because I got shit to do today. Turn on notifications, follow me on Twitter, @DaveYT. I'm a Discord, links for social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.